I feel like with you. I feel like
The Toronto Blue Jays continue to win, but still need some improvements. We will look at that today. Plus, we rank them in the Canadian Football League and continue to get ready for a wild weekend in combat sports, looking at the fighters to watch, plus a couple previews of what's to come in the world of professional wrestling. A lot to get to. Hopefully no more crashes. Couch Potato Diary Live starts right now. Welcome everyone to Couch Potato Diary. We are live, youtube.com/@CouchPotatoDiary, twitch.tv/primetimepk, and kick.com/primetimepk. Had a bit of an OBS thing there, like right as I was about to hit the countdown to go live, it just, and off it went. But it looks like the streams are at least happening right now. But wherever you're watching, if you could let me know if the stream is going okay or anything like that, that would all be greatly appreciated. Apparently, Twitch having a bit of a laggy issue, twitchy, as Deeds has been describing it lately. So it has looked fine on my end, but hopefully it looks fine on yours this time around. We are presented by Sea of Dead. Check out seaofdead403.ca for that great Calgary swag. Also, if you need that energy, head over to swiftenergy.gg and use the code PKPrimeTime for 25% off. Yes, we are back, baby. Big John in the chat is rocking and rolling. We got some Blue Jays talk right off the hop. Apparently, while the Jays are doing well, World Series odds are not in their favor, but there are a couple of things they could do to get the odds back in their favor. Let's talk about what the priority should be for the Blue Jays coming up at baseball's trade deadline. So, the Toronto Blue Jays, some way, somehow, are first place in the American League East and are now closing in on the top two teams in the American League in general as they look to avoid the dreaded wildcard round and make it back to the American League Division Series for the first time since 2016. And Big John in the Twitch chat letting me know that the Blue Jays World Series odds are currently at 5.1%, which seems about right. You know, it's been a good run so far, but I would say the odds of the Blue Jays making it to the World Series and then beating the Dodgers, Phillies, Mets, whoever, about 5%. That feels about right. But we can tilt the odds in the Blue Jays' favor. So today, going to look at what the priority should be for Toronto. And this comes from a comment we had on YouTube, which, by the way, comment away on those. I always say on these, I can't imagine I'm batting 1,000 with you. So if there's anything you agree with, disagree with, whatever, let me know in the comments or in the chat here if you are watching live. But someone said, I kind of listed off what I thought the Blue Jays needed, and they said, well, I mean, okay, but the first need is an arm. It's like, yes, I hadn't pieced out what the actual priorities were. So actually sat down, went over the roster, and decided what I think this team actually needs in terms of making that push now at the deadline and what the actual priorities should be. And so number one is a leverage bullpen arm. They just don't have enough guys that you trust late in these ball games. And honestly, they don't have enough guys that they trust to get them to the guys you really trust late in ball games. This is a bullpen that has been overused all season long. They have Hoffman, who is nearly elite when he is at his best, but that was a lot of 4, 5, 6 outs early in the season to get to this point where there was a big breakdown to the point where he's not even in the All-Star game and not even in consideration for the All-Star game. You have Garcia, who was significantly overused, goes on the injured list, comes back, gets rocked, goes back on the injured list again. So they really grinded through their bullpen in the early part of this season to get to the point where they are at now. And they are going to need those guys as the season rolls along. And another leverage one that you would be hoping for is Chad Green, and he doesn't look like a leverage guy right now. He almost blew that against the White Sox last night. So this is the absolute red alarms going off in the distance that this team needs these guys to step up. They have found something in Yariel Rodriguez, who has found another gear, and he would be a bit more difficult to burn out as he is someone who has started before, so there are at least some miles on that arm. But I think given how close this race is going to look, and given how the Blue Jays tend to go to the bullpen a little early in playoff games anyway, so you're going to need a few guys back there that you trust. Not to bring up a whole lot of old wounds or anything like that, but remember, and there are certainly more recent examples than this, but remember in 15 when the Jays were playing the Royals and you're down 1-0 in the 6th. It's like, well, game's over, because they would just roll out this murderer's row coming out of the bullpen and you couldn't touch them. You want something like that. And yeah, like Hoffman, great. Garcia can be. Yariel is right now. But I still would like one more, at least one more big arm at the back of that bullpen that you can kind of go 7, 8, 9 and feel very, very comfortable with. And then you have a couple of these guys who are fringy leverage dudes anyway. Now you have them for middle relief and you just feel very good about it. So the middle relief guys that you feel confident in, you can get those for a guy in A-ball with 3 minutes to go before the deadline. Although I would say, like, again, we're coming up on it now. It's less than 3 weeks away. But or I guess a little more than 3 weeks away, sorry. But I think now is the time to act. I love it when teams recognize they have a need and just address it. Don't worry about, well, the deadline, well, we'll see where everyone's at. Like, no, we need this thing. Go out and get that thing. Do it. Why not? What's it hurt right now? So I feel like that is something that this team needs to address. A good kind of bridge the gap type of a middle reliever, and then a strong setup closer type. The Blue Jays, I think, really, really need that. I would say the number 2 trade priority for this team is a high-level starting pitcher. In a dream scenario, it would be a number 1. And I do like, if the Blue Jays went into a playoff series today with Gausman, Barrios, and Bassett as your 1, 2, 3, and then a Scherzer either in long relief or as a 4th starter, because we don't usually go 1, 4, 7 in these playoff situations anymore with your aces, I feel pretty good about that. But Gausman, Bassett, and Barrios have all had bouts of inconsistency, we will say, this season. And so it would be very, very nice to solidify the top part of your rotation to go out and just get one of those ace types. And it will probably cost a little bit more, but I think there are a few of them out there this season that you could really feel confident with going into the playoffs. And I think that that is something this team does need. If they want to improve those World Series odds, I think having someone that you feel very good about starting a playoff series, that is something that I think this team should absolutely put a priority on. But if it's not that, the third one is just starting pitching depth. If nothing else, you just need more guys that can eat innings. I don't know how, and this is another one where you talk about the job John Schneider has done with this Blue Jays team. The fact that they have managed their way with basically 4 major league starters all season long, and one of those starters being Bowden Francis, who really pushing up on the limits of what major league starter is. I think that is a very, very impressive thing to get to this point. Now that you actually have 5 guys in the rotation, maybe it doesn't seem like as much, and we're getting, bumping into microphones here, but it sounds like Manoah is going to be coming back a month-ish from now, but I don't know how much of that you would trust. And I think it's an interesting debate of whether you want to bring him back in a bullpen role or as a starting pitcher or in kind of like an opener type of a thing. Either way, conversation for another day. Right now you do have 5, but God love him, I don't know if Eric Lauer is necessarily the sustainable option. That's like, oh, no, it's fine. We don't. Starting pitching depth. You can have your Andrew Heaney's. We got Eric Lauer. I'm not at that point with him yet. He's been great for what they have needed him to be, but I want more. And then you have Max Scherzer, who it feels like that thumb is hanging by a thread. And it feels like every start, once it happens, you could get the notification, oh, by the way, this guy's not going to pitch again for another 2 weeks. And I think now coming up to the All-Star break, there's a way that you can kind of make it work where you put him at what would be like going into the break, have the furthest away of the starts for the starting rotation, and then have him be the last starter out of the break, and you have just bought him like 2 extra weeks to help rest things. I think that there is a way that you can do that with Max Scherzer, but still, we are talking about trying to piece this together again. And if Bowden Francis comes back and he's healthy, that's great. It's going to take a bit before he gets back into the circle of trust. Let's just say that. So when it comes to playoff time, and again, how crucial every one of these games is going to be. Because with this system, even if the Blue Jays do start running away with the American League East, which I don't think is the most realistic option, but even if they do that, you are still competing with the Tigers and the Astros for those spots outside of the wild card round, so you can get into that just go into the American League Division Series. So there is going to be something to play for all season long. I don't think that this is going to be like 2015, where they just go on a 3-month heater and no one can stop them and they end up lapping the field. I don't think it is going to be that. I think that this is going to be a battle. And so you cannot afford to have, well, this guy tweaked something and so now we're doing a bullpen day and oh shit, now they got rocked and all of a sudden now our bullpen plan is thrown off for a week. You can't have that at this point in the year. You need starting pitching depth. It has been a need for this organization for a really, really long time. And now is an opportunity to address it while you have a couple of guys who you feel like you have built up some depth with. But it's fine. If Eric Lauer has to either go back to the bullpen or go back to Buffalo, it's cool to have not every major league caliber starting pitcher on your roster. It's nice to have a little bit of that depth, and I think the Blue Jays need to build that up. And the last one, while the offense has been going good, I do think that there is still a need for a big right-handed power bat. It is tough to say that you need to improve this lineup. And when they showed that graphic the other day, yesterday, when like the Jays on this 36-game run that they are on, and like half of the roster is 35 points above average on weighted runs created plus, that's tough to then say, yeah, but we can improve on this, because that is absolutely absurd. But I do still think when you look at this team, I don't know how sustainable all of these are. I don't know if Nathan Lucas is just going to keep hitting monster bombs the rest of the season. And Ernie Clement, I don't know if he is just turning into like, oh yeah, the Jays don't need to make their Tulo move this year. They have Ernie Clement. I don't think he is going to be that. I do think that you want a real big pop on that right side. The Blue Jays are a platoon-heavy baseball team right now. And the right side of that platoon, it does feel a little bit weaker on almost every spot that you run through. So they could get a real power option on that right side and just make this team even more difficult to pitch against. Looking at it today, when everyone is healthy, it feels like there is a spot either in one corner outfield or third base. And Barger just takes the other one. So yes, Clement is the odd man out in this. And maybe that is not fair. But again, as Dan Shulman has said, these things have a way of working themselves out. Who knows what is going on with Jimenez or anything like that. So what type of a move do you see these guys making? I think that is the one where you can really, like, again, all due respect to Ernie Clement, but get a third baseman, get a corner outfielder, get one of the two, have Barger play the other one, and make this team all that more difficult to play against. And you can still have Clement come in different pinch hitting roles for platoon situations, defensive replacements, all these different things. It is nice to have a little bit of flexibility in this lineup, and I think that move would give the Jays just a little bit more of it. So those are the categories that are the priorities for the Blue Jays here as we approach the trade deadline. Coming up later in the week, we are going to look at the specific players that the Blue Jays should be making a priority. We did already a trade targets video a bit ago. You can check that one out now. Again, everything is in playlists over on the YouTube channel, but now we're going to specifically just lock it in for which players I think the Blue Jays should very much be targeting. If you missed any of the show today, if you are just tuning in now on the live stream, or if you have to leave at some point, you can catch everything from Couch Potato Diary in podcast form. You can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's move to the world of the Canadian Football League, as we are now past the quarter point of the season. I think a few things starting to kind of settle in a little bit, but we still have a lot to learn. Let's figure out at least what we know by now with this week's CFL Power Rankings. How do you not feel good when the Power Rankings drop comes in every week? So, the Canadian Football League is getting ready for Week 6 already, flying by this CFL season, and quite a few interesting storylines kind of developing. So, let's run through our CFL Power Rankings here for the week. Coming in at number 9, it is the Ottawa Red Blacks. It's a concerning loss against Edmonton. Brown getting back is very important for this team at quarterback, but I think we are seeing the problems are a little bit bigger than just, oh, our quarterback is hurt. Defensively, There are problems on this team, and they aren't getting better as the season goes on. So I have worries about Ottawa. The Edmonton Elks finally getting into the win column. They still have a long way to go, but they are a team where at least things are kind of moving in the right direction. So you feel pretty good about that. Like, are they challenging anyone above them in the West right now? I don't think so. If you were to tell us at the beginning of the season where this team is at now and where it looks like they're going to go, would it be considered quite the disappointment? It certainly would be. But I think now, for how the season has started, what they have clearly shown they need to progress at, things are at least moving in the right direction. The Toronto Argonauts come in at number 7. That sucked against Hamilton. That was really, really bad. And again, it's like Ottawa, where, yeah, Chad Kelly coming back might solve some things. But he's not going out there playing defensive back. At least he shouldn't. That would be irresponsible to put your quarterback who's coming off of a broken leg in a defensive back. Like, this team can't stop a thing. And everyone is exposing them right now. So I think that there are some real concerns about this Toronto team. And they were concerns we talked about at the beginning of the season. We are getting to the point where mathematically we have almost won our first bet from the futures market of the year with Toronto under 11.5. Like, we are coming up on almost clinching that one already, which would be close to a record, I think. And one that I would be very, very happy about. In the Twitch chat, talking about the drop there for the CFL Power Rankings. Dr. Z Power Rankings got nothing on Dr. P Power Rankings. Goddamn right, John. I kind of just want the do throughout the entire show. Let's just have this whole sports podcast played with a dance beat underneath it. I might do that. I'm going to Subtronics tonight, so I'm a raver now. So it would fit the personality that I very clearly have. Coming in at number 6, it is the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They finally look like things are coming together, at least on the offensive side. I will still have concerns about them defensively for a while, but offensively, this is starting to look like the unit that had me put a preseason future bet on Bo Levi Mitchell as the MLP and over 4,500 passing yards. Like, this is getting back to what you wanted them to be. And that feels very, very good from a Hamilton perspective. At 5, it is the BC Lions. Very important win against Montreal to keep pace in the West. And the good thing is Rourke is really finding his game now after an injury. 21 points doesn't look like it. That's a really good Montreal defense that he put up 21 points against. And so I think that there should be some confidence that things are turning around in BC. Before we get to our top 4, I want to remind you guys that everything is always changing at Couch Potato Diary. So follow me on social media. I am at Primetime Klein on X, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Threads, all of it, to keep up to date with everything happening here with the podcast. Our top 4, you have the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who absolutely got beat down in the Stampede Bowl out at McMahon Stadium in Calgary. They still have a very good team, but that was a rough one, and that one was so one-sided that I could not justify putting them ahead of the Calgary Stampeders, who move up and get into that number 3 spot. It is time to start taking this team seriously. They pick up an impressive win against a pretty good Winnipeg team that you can feel very comfortable with that as kind of your solidifying, this team is for real type of a move. So kudos to Calgary for really putting something together very, very quickly and quieting a lot of the concerns that people had about this team. At 2, for the first time this season, it's the Montreal Alouettes. When healthy, they're the best team in the league. I do not question that. But these are 2 tough losses in a row against a BC team that was struggling to find themselves, like a summer blockbuster movie. But also a Hamilton team that, again, was kind of struggling. And you let both teams off the hook. It is more concerning than I thought, the backup quarterback situation in Montreal. And so, again, I am not saying that, oh man, start looking at Hamilton futures to win the East. But what I am saying is that this may not be as rocking chair for Montreal the rest of the way as I may have thought. So, if they're number 2, we have a new number 1. There are only 9 teams in the league. You can probably figure out who we're going to be talking about by now. It's the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They move into that number 1 spot coming off of the bye week. It is a huge early season matchup now with Calgary. A very interesting measuring stick game, as it is I wasn't expecting it to be, but it will be the biggest test of the season so far for Saskatchewan, and probably likewise for Calgary, to really see where these teams are at. So very, very fascinated to see how that game plays out coming up here this weekend. That is a Friday night game out in the prairies. Hey, if you're enjoying this stream and want to support Couch Potato Diary, just putting your eyes and ears to it is all the support I could have dreamed of. Thank you guys so much. It is wild to see some of the growth we're having on YouTube right now. It is funny how, like, the podcast side will rock it up for a little bit, and then YouTube will rock it forward, and the podcast, and right now we're in the shooting forward of YouTube. So anyone who has watched or followed or anything on there means the world. Thank you so much. Twitch, we have Deeds, not in the chat today, or at least not active. I just haven't said anything that has sparked his interest yet, but celebrating Sweet 16 as a subscriber, but over 100 followers. All of that is so important to me and means a lot. But if you do want to keep supporting Couch Potato Diary, feel free to use the tip jar that we have. There is a link in the description on YouTube, and there is a panel on Twitch and Kick. If you have a couple bucks, it goes a long way, and it helps out with the treats for the dogs and the cat. Dog and cats that we have here. But yeah, not required, but would be appreciated. We're going to move now into the world of combat sports, as there's a ton of face punching happening this weekend at a very high level. We have already talked about Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano 3 this Friday on Netflix in what is probably the biggest women's fight in the history of boxing and is one of the biggest fights of the year. But it's not the only fight on that card, and it is certainly not the only fight of consequence. There's a lot of very, very interesting fighters that we should be keeping an eye on this Friday on Netflix. So this is going to be your guide, helping you out, figure out what fighters we need to watch coming up on Friday. These are the fighters to watch for Taylor and Serrano. Netflix is back in the boxing game this weekend with Taylor Serrano 3. And while that fight understandably is getting all of the buzz, there are some major fights as you go up and down this card. So let's take a look at it. First, the undisputed super featherweight champion in Alicia Baumgardner is defending her titles against undefeated WBA interim world champion in Jennifer Miranda. Baumgardner is 15-1 with 7 knockouts. She is on a 9-fight win streak. And there are times where you will see, like, oh, okay, well, this person has, they're the undisputed champion, and now they're moving up in a different class because they have now checked off that box. That is not Baumgardner. She has now 4 straight fights for the undisputed super featherweight championships. So this is a very experienced fighter, and one that I think is certainly someone deserving of this spotlight, and definitely one that I think a lot of people could be talking about coming off of this one. But it is not an easy test. She is going up against Jennifer Miranda, who is undefeated in 12 fights with 1 knockout. The interesting part here for Miranda is this is her first fight, not just in the continental United States. This is her first time fighting outside of Spain. So quite the jump going from look, like Madrid, there is at least a boxing scene out there, but it is quite the jump to go from Spain to the Mecca, Madison Square Garden on Netflix with an undisputed championship on the line. So very interested to see how she handles that. But those are certainly a couple fighters that we should be watching here coming up this weekend. Another one, it is Ellie Scottney putting up her IBF, WBO, and Ring Magazine super bantamweight titles on the line against Yamaleth Mercado, who is the WBC champion in that division. Scottney is undefeated at 10-0 as a pro. This is her stateside debut as well for Mercado. 24-3 with 5 knockout wins. She's won 6 in a row after losing to Amanda Serrano for the IBO, WBC, and WBO and featherweight championships. So again, you have a couple of very experienced, very talented fighters, very high-level fighters fighting for championship gold. A couple other fighters that I think definitely deserve to get at least a bit of the spotlight here this weekend. Big John in the chat, Shakur Stevenson fights a pylon for a belt on Saturday. Apparently, that flew under my radar a little bit. Well, have no fear, Big John, because A, we had the Fight Night first look for that on, it's available on YouTube right now. Also, keep watching the stream and get to it after. But also, we're going to be talking about the fighters to watch on that card here in just a little bit. Do want to remind you guys here before we get into some Canadian content that is going to be fighting on Netflix this weekend that the next stream for Couch Potato Diary, we're taking tomorrow off because, as mentioned before, you boys going to a concert tonight and I don't feel like it and I make my own schedule. So that's why we've adjusted things a little bit. Next stream that I can promise you is going to be Thursday at 10 a.m. If I'm feeling up to it, I might play some video games tomorrow, but that would be the extent of it. That is for sure. So the next live stream on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick comes at you on Thursday. As mentioned before, there is not just some major fights, but we also have a couple very decorated Canadians who are going to be fighting on the Taylor Serrano card, and they deserve their own spotlight. So here is your Canadian spotlight for Taylor and Serrano. The only woman to have defeated Katie Taylor in the pro ranks is Chantel Cameron. She will be defending her WBC super lightweight title against Jessica Camara in a 10-round fight. This one will be on the prelims of this particular card. But Camara is out of Cambridge, Ontario, now residing in Montreal, Quebec. She is 14-4-1 with 3 knockouts to her resume. The Cobra with a draw in her last fight, unbeaten in her last 5 with 1 knockout win in there. She has been a pro since 2017. And I love now that we are seeing, because of this emergence of this Taylor Serrano rivalry and the spotlight that has been put on it, I love that there are some vets of the sport who are also getting a very well-deserved spotlight, and that would be Camara. Again, pro since 2017. It has not been a phenomenal time in women's boxing save for the last couple of years. So that is a long stretch of kind of grinding through, probably not getting paid what you were deserved, and now getting an opportunity to fight for an interim championship is a very big deal. So love to see that for the Canadian Camara. On the opposite side of the experience spectrum, we have Tom Thibeault, who will be facing undefeated middleweight, the amazingly named Mary Casamassa, coming up on Saturday. Thibeault is 28 years old and was born in St. George, Quebec. She represented Canada at the 2020 Olympics in boxing in Tokyo, 2021, but you know, represented Canada at the Olympics in Tokyo, and also won the IBA Women's World Boxing Championship tournament in Istanbul in 2022. She won a bronze in that tournament in 2019. This is a Canadian who has won at every level that she has fought at, and now in her 3rd professional fight is getting quite the treatment here on Netflix. I'm not certain if this is a main card one or a prelim one, so keep an eye out for it, though, because a highly decorated amateur Canadian is now making her 3rd pro fight against not an easy out in Mary Casamassa, and Thibeault has been working at this craft for a bit, even though she's only been pro for a few months, really. She started boxing at the age of 10. Also, impressive brain on this one, as she has a bachelor's degree in linguistics and 2 minors in Mandarin and Spanish. I could barely say all of that in English, so nonetheless, very impressive. And Tam Thibeault going to get a very good opportunity coming up here this weekend. As Big John, though, mentioned in the chat, this is not the only big fight card that is happening over the weekend. That is on Friday. But Saturday, Shakur Stevenson once again tries to break into superstardom in his fight as he tries to look impressive against someone he should look impressive against. But there are a couple other impressive fighters who also really need to look impressive on the undercard. This is a big fork in the road moment, I think, for a few fighters on this. So let's look at some of the fighters to watch for the Stevenson Zepeda fight card on Saturday. We have a very big boxing weekend, obviously, with Taylor and Serrano 3, but also Shakur Stevenson, who has been one of the better fighters in the world for a long time, is trying to get that recognition and get that big fight. Just needs to prove it one more time against Zepeda. But there's a couple fork in the roads that are going to be fought for here over the weekend, as we have a few fighters that we need to watch on this card. So let's get into it, as Britain's Hamza Sheeraz will be moving up to super middleweight to take on Edgar Berlanga. The best thing that Sheeraz would want to hear is, man, that name sounds familiar, but I can't quite place it. I kind of forget it. He is hoping that you forget his last fight. It was a draw that certainly wasn't a draw. It spent 0 seconds looking like a draw when he fought Carlos Adames in February at Riyadh season out there. There was a lot of hype around him, even being a fighter from Britain, obviously having a bit of a background in the area. So people out there were super amped up for it. And god damn did he suck against Carlos Adames in the WBC middleweight championship bout there. That sucked. It was really, really bad. And he comes away with a draw. Now, he has said all of the right things, not making excuses. I wasn't good enough. Now moving up to 168 pounds, maybe he has found something new. I am hoping that he is not just saying the right things and is actually, keeping, he's actually doing what he is saying, because there are improvements that need to be made. Berlanga, another name that you may recognize, as he was unsuccessful the only time he has fought for a championship, as he fought Canelo Alvarez back in September. He bounced back from that one with a knockout win over Jonathan Gonzalez Ortiz in what was his final fight with Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Boxing. So this is, again, it's a big stage. Big John saying he'll be buying this one despite Stevenson's rapid and then slow ascent. He remains must-see television for me. I think a few people are going to be watching this to see what Stevenson looks like, but this is a big fight on the co-main as well, with Berlanga trying to erase a lot of people's memory from, even though he battled against Canelo Alvarez, more people came away from that fight saying, hey, this guy probably didn't deserve to be in here with Canelo, and it still went for a long time. And Sheeraz just looked awful, but still has a 0 in the loss column. So both of these guys, I think, need some big performances here on Saturday. And then you have David Morrell, who is 11-1, coming off of his first career loss against David Benavidez earlier in the year. He is facing Imam Katayev in a lightweight fight. Katayev is a 2020 Olympic bronze medalist who has picked up a couple of pretty big wins on some undercards here, but this is a fight to see, I guess, where he is at. But this is more to see, okay, Morrell, you're coming off of your first career loss. What is the response now? How do you work? And how do you kind of bounce back from this one? So I think this is, again, like I said, it feels like the whole card is like this, where Stevenson, we have talked about, he, for Big John, must see television. Defensively, one of the best fighters, probably the best fighter in the sport right now. But he doesn't have that just signature, put my stamp on it, I am absolutely ready to go up to that top tier of whatever weight class I am at that time. This is a chance for him to erase that and now get those big fights, those big paydays that he has been craving. And it is kind of the same as you go along. There is a lot of prove it moments coming up on this fight card. And so if they did the pay-per-view tags like they used to do on the UFC ones, this would be Stevenson versus Zepeda. Prove it, because a lot of guys have a lot that they need to prove going into Saturday night. So that is the story from boxing. Still a lot more to come on Couch Potato Diary throughout the week in the sport of boxing as we get into our predictions coming up on Thursday and Friday, and maybe a couple other kind of shoulder programmy type of things as we go along. But let's move into the world of professional wrestling. You thought it was busy in boxing. It is nuts in wrestling this weekend with the Great American Bash, Evolution, Saturday night's main event, and then AEW has their version of WrestleMania with All In. It's a lot. And so the road to Saturday and Sunday began with Monday Night Raw. It had some ups, it had some downs. Let's talk about WWE's flagship show as we head into a very busy weekend for them. So yes, boy, I need to fade that out better. So we, again, getting ready for a busy weekend in wrestling. Want to remind you, we'll get into a little bit more, but for just wrestling talk, you can subscribe to the Living Room Lariat podcast. Let's get into Raw as we start the show with what they call in post wrestling, and I can't get that out of my head now. The Seth Riders. This team needs a name. At some point, we all, like, we're not necessarily dressing the same again, but everyone is on the same page. It is obviously a faction. Factions need team names. I need a team name for these guys. Minor thing. But I do like that Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed now get some mic time. Because ultimately, the point of a faction like this is to get a main event spotlight on guys who you are trying to build into that, but maybe aren't ready for the main event yet. And the best way to do that is to give them reps like this. And so Braun Breaker, again, I am going to say this every week. I may as well just copy and paste it into the Raw recap next week. Braun Breaker looks like a star. I love that, Conrad. Yeah, they just did the Dunks and Destruction pack, the DLC for WWE 2K25 with a bunch of basketball guys in it. Let's get LeBron in there now too, and call these guys LeBrons. Love it. Lock that in, Conrad. Always awesome having you in the chat, sir. Braun Breaker comes across like a star. Like, just the promo where he's like, I hate his music and his face and all these different things. Like, if that, like, drive by here, but if Ricochet cut that promo, it seems lame, right? But there's just something about this guy who is more tanned than a human being should be, certainly more muscular than most human beings are, just yelling about things that he hates about this otherwise very likable human being in Sami Zayn. So I think that there's just an it factor to this guy. And it feels like lazy analysis, but there is. You just, like, he passes that airport test where if he walked by, he's like, oh, that's a something. I don't know what, but he is a something. And he gets on the mic and you're just captivated by him. Bronson, at this point, he's not quite there yet, but he is getting some chances too, and I like that. And obviously, a lot of his charisma is physical in what he can do in the ring. I also love that one, Big John. Bronze over brains. That is very good. You could even do like bronze and brains if you want, because Seth Rollins is the revolutionary architect guy. Yeah. Bronze and brains and bronze, something along those lines. We're working on it here, but a couple excellent suggestions, and way better than anything I could come up with. The one thing I didn't like about this promo segment is that Rollins didn't have a chance to say anything, which, if you are a longtime consumer of my content, you will know that Seth Rollins not talking is not necessarily a downside for me. I am not a fan of the promo style of him. There's just something about it that takes me out. So him not cutting a promo doesn't necessarily break my heart, except he's in one of 3 matches that's scheduled for Saturday night's main event. Could we not have mentioned that in our opening promo when we're talking about ripping people's throats out and vendettas that we have? Like, can we not address that? Everyone's chanting CM Punk. We know that's the match that we are getting to. Like, could you have made this seem like any more of an afterthought? I don't think so. So now look, Knight gets a vignette later in the night, and then he comes out for an attack on Seth Rollins. But yes, this feels very much like killing time for Seth Rollins, and let's just get us to SummerSlam with CM Punk. So it's gonna come up a lot. It is my frustration with all of this weekend happening for WWE. They need a Saturday night's main event quarterly. This falls into the quarter, so I guess. Evolution, it's a really great thing that they are doing this. But all of this feels so rushed. None of it feels consequential. All of it feels very skippable from WWE here this weekend. And it all just feels like afterthoughts coming into it, even with an attack to close the show. Conrad in the Twitch chat, it's almost like his dad had the best promo of all time. Promos are obviously genetic. And yes, uncle, not dad, as Conrad would correct there in a second. I can't wait for Braun's Breaker Math promo era. He entered into that pool when he did that with the, what was it, the Triple Threat or the Fatal 4-Way, whatever they did. It was Fatal 4-Way, the Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania. He did his own kind of Breaker Math, but he is just scratching the surface on that. It was at a countdown thing, so he could kind of workshop it. There is going to be a Breaker Math on Monday Night Raw that is going to surpass whatever the Scott Steiner one was in TNA. But yes, no, like, it is just every little bit is him just kind of scratching the surface right now. Like, this guy is going to main event WrestleMania for 100 years now. He is just so good. And then in the match, he destroys Sami Zayn, who, again, very likable character. We all love Sami Zayn. But he goes out and just annihilates the dude, and the crowd is chanting, one more time, one more time. And Karrion Kross comes from the back before this and attacks Sami Zayn, and the crowd is cheering for Karrion Kross. I feel like in 2025, the massive beatdown is not the way to get a heel over as a heel. Now, Karrion Kross, over. Braun Breaker, over. O-V-E-R, over. But not as bad guys, which is what I think they are going for. So it will be interesting to see where they pivot with this. And I have said, like, this guy, people got a little tired of babyface Braun at the tail end of the NXT run, but I think that there should be something else now with him from a babyface perspective, because I think you have an absolute mega babyface on your hands with this guy right now. And I like I said, sky is the limit with him. Sami now out indefinitely. Will we hear that? Sorry, it looks like we're getting a little laggy here, so I hope everything is all right. Sami out indefinitely. I do think a bit of a break is fine, but he did just come back after WrestleMania. I have been saying for a little bit, this character needs to evolve, so I am hoping that it evolves and it gets better. That is genuinely what I am hoping, because this is not a character right now that feels like it is ready for that championship level. We have just been in this thing for so long with the, oh, I think I can. Oh, maybe I can. Oh, I'm the underdog. Oh, I'm not. Like, it is the same note all the time. And it's a good note. Sami's awesome at it. But there needs to be a little bit more evolution in this. And so I'm hoping that maybe a couple week break leading into SummerSlam gets us this new Sami Zayn attitude that we might be hoping for. Some entertaining stuff with the New Day mourning the tag team division. I thought that was really, really funny what they did. Another interesting note, though, because this is the second week in a row now, we get a Big E mention on Raw. And I know that it has kind of been the subtext of the whole thing is that these guys turned on Big E in a way that we all hated. And so that is why these are the bad guys now. But they are actually going out and mentioning him now more than they were before. And so I just feel like we are building up to some, not that Big E is going to have a match. Let's get that out of our heads. If he does, it's awesome, but let's not assume. But some kind of a Big E something coming up at SummerSlam with them. That is kind of my prediction of how they are trending. The Becky, Bayley, Lyra promo. I do like that you're adding just a little bit of a layer to this one with Becky suggesting that maybe Lyra actually wanted Bayley to be taken out at WrestleMania and didn't seem all that upset when it happened. It is better than the, well, you're not talking to me, so thusly, let's wrestle for the Intercontinental Championship. Not really a storyline to really sink your teeth into all that much. The match itself is going to be incredible. And like the promo stuff here isn't bad. It's just some of the beats along the way were a little The one thing I have said before, I think Lyra is very close to being like a star level type. She has all the in-ring ability you could want, and there is some kind of charisma there now that she has stopped pretending she's a bird. But it's still not all the way there, and you could see it this week, because this crowd in Rhode Island was pretty hot. But she comes in, like, Becky does her promo thing, Bayley comes walking out, Lyra, music hits, comes storming past Bayley, says something about Becky being delusional, and that she's going to win her title at Evolution on Sunday. And it was, she may as well have read pause for applause, because she stopped expecting the crowd to go, yeah, get her! And it was nothing. That was a, oh no. Because it was obviously set up as an applause line. She paused as if it was going to be one, and then the crowd paused with her. And that it's not a great sign. That's not great. They've given her quite a bit now, and so I don't think you can just say, oh, well, they haven't given her a whole lot yet. Like, she won the Intercontinental title and has had a lengthy feud now featuring two of the best women's performers in the history of the industry. It's not early anymore. So there is still some work to do with this character. The problem is, I don't see her as a heel. You know, like, she does not strike me as a bad human. So I have a tough time seeing where the next pivot is. But again, I do think they are close, and I hope that there isn't an overreaction to it. But that was ooh boy, that was not Great. Bronson Reed and Jey Uso. It never really gets going. The whole point of it is Bronson Reed hitting the tsunami after the match is done. But the highlight of it is Jey is going for a tope suicida, and Bronson Reed, not just a folding chair, Bronson Reed throws a whole ass office chair at Jey Uso. Dong! Knocks him back into the ring and then splashes his 400-pound body on that poor human. And we are to assume that Jey Uso is out for a little bit. So there is a good edge to the bronze over brain. That there is some excellent edge to these guys, and kind of creating a we run this town sort of a feel with them is a good thing. Lastly, we get just enough physicality from Goldberg and Gunther. I said I kind of wanted there to be a bit of a oh my god type of a thing from Goldberg, but it was nice to see him looking healthy, because when they started this whole thing and Goldberg was coming down to challenge Gunther, there was a bit of a hitch in the giddy-up of Goldberg. I don't know if it's just because he had some adrenaline flowing from driving into that parking lot, impeccably timed, driving into that parking lot at a rate that one should not drive into parking lots in, and then stormed his way to the ring, but he looked fine, which is basically all you needed from him. Again, I don't know what this is going to look like on Saturday. I would imagine at some point it is going to look like a match that Jim Ross would compare to a bowling shoe. But I am still fascinated by it. Goldberg, I grew up in that time, right? I'm 35 years old now. I am that wheelhouse, you know? I was yelling who's next and all those different things. So this is the nostalgia that just gets me. So they've hit it. And Gunther, God, is he amazing, right? This whole thing has been absolutely fantastic. But to Big John's point, like you said, it's going to be sad. I love Goldberg. It will be sad. I don't know. Like the obviously the peak of Goldberg's sadness was the match in Saudi with The Undertaker, where he kind of got knocked out and the whole thing sucked. But there was a pretty good bounce back where like it is weird to say his early 50s title run was one of the saving graces of it. But honestly, like the run that he had with the title, where he surprises Kevin Owens and all that, and then goes to WrestleMania against Brock, like that whole run was probably better than his first WWE run. So look, maybe it can happen. But if this match goes over 10 minutes, someone fucked up in a real big way. We are here to watch Goldberg smash his head into a locker. Let's gimmick the thing, for fuck's sakes, but smash his head into a locker, do a that thing, have the pyro play, have the music going, having all of Atlanta chanting Goldberg, have him come out. Don't even pretend. Have Goldberg come out, spear, jackhammer, and then have Gunther kick out at 1. And then we have a 3-minute match after that, and then we all go home. That is what I want from this one. That's it. That's all I need after it. Gilbert run-in would be interesting. And really, that is the retirement match we should have got, right? It's not Goldberg against Gunther. Give us Goldberg-Gilberg. What are we doing here? Why are we not doing this? Give us Goldberg-Gilberg, 2 out of 3 falls, and main event anywhere in the country. So anyway, like I said, I do not have high hopes for it. I am prepared to be sad, but I am excited to see the whole Goldberg presentation, basically until the bell rings. Essentially. Conrad in the chat. So Goldberg drove like 80% of drivers getting into the Cowboys parking lot for Flames game. Yes, 100% yes. Basically, any person who has driven down 17th Avenue drove like Goldberg, where you get the motors revving and everything like that. Another question here from Conrad in the Twitch chat. This is Hunter feeling TKO pressure to end his long-term storytelling in favor of fucking AEW over. Like, the long-term storytelling, there is still some stuff there. But this is definitely where I think TKO, they just don't have the sense of any of these things right now. And so they are not leave the audience wanting more. They are, we can maximize every dollar out of this thing, so let's do it. And we don't care about storytelling. We don't care about audience fatigue or anything. This is entirely about just getting every last dollar they can out of this WWE thing. And look, that is kind of what companies are supposed to do. But I do think there is an art to it when it comes to the creative process. And this is not art. This is taking a paint can, putting it in front of a canvas, and shooting that paint can with a bazooka. This is not anything to do with any of the storytelling. So it does feel very just irresponsible almost of them to do all of these events. Because again, like they had the video things up there, but coming away from this, nothing was drilled into your head. And this is the problem with doing all of these shows, is that yes, at its peak, WWE could be really repetitive with telling you, like, hey, this is what you are watching on Sunday. But by the time Sunday came, I knew that Stone Cold was facing Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon in a ladder match for the company. I knew these things. I do this every day. Watch all of these things. Have created a second podcast off of the amount that I do this. And I don't think without help I could run through the entire weekend of shows that they have. It is too much. And that is the TKO model. It is not less is more. It is more is more. And we are seeing that with the UFC, where it's like, yeah, we could like have a better television product if we put our fight nights in places with humans, or we could save some money, keep fulfilling our TV contracts, put in the Apex in front of a couple people, at least one of them might be a robot, and we'll just go from there. We'll be fine. Whatever. It is mass consumption right now of all of these things. And it sucks because they had a real kind of groove going into WrestleMania 40. And now there has been a lot of, well, we just need The Rock back, so we're just going to pop a number and do this. There's been a lot of short-term whatevers just to get as much money out of these things as possible, which I do think has led to a lot of the speculation about TKO maybe just wanting to cut bait and get out. Like, let's buy into this thing, make as much money as we can, ride this horse into the ground, and get out by the time it has hit the ground, right? Like, as soon as it kind of, boom, we're not even there for the second little dead cat bounce. We're just jumping off and running away. There is some speculation about TKO and what they want to do with the WWE, and that is a reason why, for sure. But look, I mean, this is, and we've talked about it in the AEW preview, they're not going to catch WWE. We are not going to come out of this weekend saying, wow, the new #1 wrestling promotion in the world is AEW. There's going to be a lot of people who say that their favorite promotion is AEW, and you are certainly within your rights to do just that. But WWE has left the door open now for AEW based off of the decisions that they have made. The weirdest part about this, Conrad, is, like, as of right now, AEW has momentum, right? Like, I don't think we can question that. Maybe not a ton, but they have at least turned things around from the, oh my god, everyone hates you, from a few months ago. And we'll talk about the overall health of AEW here coming up in a second, but there was no point in this when they scheduled these things. Like, when they booked when they booked Saturday night's main event to counter All In, and then All In moved to the afternoon, and they added Great American Bash on top of that, and then put Evolution on Sunday. There was no need to do that at the time, because AEW was kind of just continuously shooting themselves in the foot. And so you have just looked like the bully for no reason. You have watered down your product for no reason. And while you are doing that, you have allowed your opposition to come back in. Like, this isn't, Mick Foley's going to win their title. Huh, that's going to put butts in the seats. This isn't like a fatal mistake or anything from WWE, but it is certainly an arrogant one, and it's certainly a mistake to have loaded this whole thing up. And I think it is just drawing more people over to the AEW side, but we will see. Let's keep the wrestling talk going, shall we? Look, we said too many things happening this weekend, which means a lot of things to preview. NXT has their go-home show before Great American Bash and Evolution. I don't think they have Saturday night's main event involvement, but who knows at this point. Let's get into what we are expecting from NXT as they go into their go-home show before the Great American Bash. So, the one thing we are looking for from NXT going into the Great American Bash is quite simple, really. What's on the Great American Bash? As of right now, as of the time that the words are coming out of my mouth into this microphone and into your ears, there are 3 matches announced for Great American Bash. That's it. 3. 3. But again, no, this wasn't all thrown together, and there was a long-term plan for all of these things. So, number 1, just tell me what I'm watching on Saturday afternoon. Huh? Thanks. Appreciate it. I think one of the big things that we are going to be looking for is what is in store, I think, for Inamura and Obafemi ahead of the title clash. They have had a pretty good kind of setup and a pretty good, like, okay, Inamura has a couple good wins. He pinned Trick Williams, wins a number 1 contenders match. All right. I've said Inamura, there feels like there's something there, but he's not quite at that main event level just yet, which is a lot of guys on NXT right now. So can we get to a point where we are considering Inamura a real threat for Obafemi's title, or is one of the 3 matches going into this show going to be remarkably predictable? I think I know which way, but we will see. I love that one of the matches we're getting tonight is Joe Hendry and Mike Santana teaming up. Honestly, one of the best built things on NXT right now is the TNA title match for Slammiversary. They've done a really fun job of building that one up, and now getting Joe Hendry and Mike Santana the spotlight is a nice touch, I think, for them. So that is a positive, I will say. This is a good job that they have done of building it up. And honestly, I am at the point, I wish that TNA title match was on Great American Bash, because it would be a match, and it would be a fun one. So I would imagine maybe we get some TNA involvement coming up at the Great American Bash. Also scheduled for NXT is Ricky Saints in a gauntlet match against the Varsity Project. This is actually a pretty good chance for Ricky Saints. No one is expecting Ricky Saints to lose any of these. I still feel like we have not really hit our stride with Ricky Saints in WWE on NXT just yet. It still feels like, I mean, part of it, we kind of talked about this in one of the other NXT shows that we did, but everyone just kind of has this assumption that he is not here for a long time on NXT, so you don't really fully invest in it. And then there's an injury and he goes away and and it just feels like there is something that is keeping them from going just full tilt into a main event story with Ricky Saints. And so this is an opportunity, I think, to reestablish him as that main level guy. Think of what the big gauntlet match did for Seth Rollins a few years ago to kind of reinvigorate him as like, oh yeah, he is one of the best wrestlers in the world. Hey, I'm not saying that this is going to be a 2-hour gauntlet match, but I think this will be a good opportunity to reestablish Ricky Saints as a main guy. So we will see. But like I said, I want there to be any kind of a direction that shows me that anything from this weekend is actually being thought of at all, instead of just oh, and by the way, we are doing this, and then we are going to do whatever we do SummerSlam weekend, whatever. Oh yeah, I think I called the Varsity Project before. Vanity Project, you're right, Conrad. That is Shawn Michaels' Spirit Squad. Yes, 1,000 times. Yes, it is. And I think there's a potential there. I think having Ethan Page as the leader of a group right now is kind of fun. So yeah, I think there's something with that, but maybe I think Spirit Squad still wins, but you know, that's still a weird time. And I still like that. It felt like, what was that dude's name? Kenny. He was the one that it felt like everything was built around. And then Dolph Ziggler ends up being the dude who actually breaks out of it. But yes, the new NXT Spirit Squad, the Vanity Project, will probably all be losing to Ricky Saints. And it probably won't be the star-making thing that I want it to be, but I am hoping we at least get something out of this fucking show so we can get excited about Saturday for their portion of it. Anyway, one company that doesn't need to get me more excited right now is AEW. The frustration I have spewed about WWE is all countered by how excited I am for this weekend and All In. AEW has one more chance to impress for All In with AEW Dynamite. Let's talk about the AEW Go Home Show. With all due respect to Collision, let's talk about the AEW Go Home Show before their biggest pay-per-view of the year. While the WWE is going with quantity over quality, AEW seems to be hitting the nice little middle spot of the Venn diagram of both, as we have a lot of very good stories peaking toward the biggest show of the year at All in. So it's one last chance to push for All In. The All-Star Tag Team match coming up on Wednesday, it should be wild. It is Moxley, Claudio, and the Young Bucks against Hangman, Ospreay, Shibata, and Hobbs. We saw the, Good versus Evil tag match with the Superman integration on last week's show. I think we're going to get something similar to just a wild, wild match in this one. And I think because of the combatants involved, there are actually quite a few interesting storytelling devices that you can use in this one to really start to like make that final push to All In. So interested to see kind of the direction they go, because it does kind of feel like Hangman and Mox had their big kind of crescendo last week with Hangman challenging Moxley to Texas death and then hitting the buckshot on Marina Shafir, which if you are not a regular AEW viewer, all of that just sounded very strange, but it's entertaining, trust me. So it did kind of feel like that kind of hit its peak. And the Ospreay Young Bucks thing felt like it kind of hit its peak. And so I wonder if you'd like to keep going with the dissension of Ospreay and Swerve, and maybe a little bit of, I don't know if I trust you to put my title hopes for a year on the line. I wonder if there is either a Young Bucks targeting Ospreay injury or something along those lines, where it's just a little bit of like, oh my God, what have you done to me? So I think, like I said, a few interesting storytelling options coming out of that. Also, the second spot in the Women's Casino Gauntlet is up for grabs. Tekla and Megan Bain are in this one. There is also, damn it, I'm forgetting. It is, just came back. Ty Mello is going to be in this, and Queen Aminata, I believe, are the four in this one. But me not remembering who the other two were kind of leads you to believe who I think might be the ones to come out of this. But again, I love the Casino Gauntlet. I love this interesting kind of qualifying way that you can do it. And I think that they have really maximized it and really driven home how exciting this match concept is coming up here on Saturday. Samoa Joe against Wheeler Yuta. This feels like with Shibata and Hobbs in the match with Claudio, and now Samoa Joe and Wheeler Yuta in a match, it feels like if we're going to get one more match added to this, it will be for the trios tag belts, which I think it should be. And yes, Conrad, Joe. Anytime we can get Samoa Joe on national television, it's a good Wednesday. So excited for that one. And then we get a couple of face-to-faces. Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné, one last match to build to this feud. I think it has been an excellent build. And this one promo, I think, could take it over the top. Like, obviously, we are basically fighting for a new era in AEW with Hangman and Moxley. This is something that maybe it hasn't always been the most effective long-term story, but this is the big long-term story throughout AEW. And now AEW's Batman has a chance to take out the Joker's group with the Death Riders. So it has to be the main event. But goddamn, am I not wondering if this match should be the main event. I think this build's been great. Timeless Toni Storm has my attention, always. I think the character is hilarious, but I love it when she gets serious. And her and Mercedes Moné, they have the thing, these holy shit, these bitches are crazy. That was fun at the beginning, but now it has turned serious. And Toni Storm being focused and just serious on Dynamite last week, I think was great. These two have a chance to really, really sell this one and make it maybe the people's main event going into Saturday afternoon. And then Mark Briscoe and MJF with what is being marketed as a talkie talk. I think it's going to be really fun. I would imagine it gets pretty personal. I have said before, I think that my frustration with MJF is that he is very, very talented and a very, very good heel. And he does go for the low-hanging fruit a lot. Now, there are a lot of times where he goes for the low-hanging fruit, but because he does it so effectively, it doesn't really feel like it. You know, like the taking the mask off of Mystico and then wearing it. That's been done 1,000 times, and it'll be done 1,000 times more. But there was something about the way he did it that it didn't feel as low-hanging fruit. But I had real frustrations when he brought up Owen in the Jeff Jarrett thing. And this is just screaming MJF bringing up something about Jay Briscoe. And I don't think you need to do it. So I am going against what my therapist told me once and worrying about it twice, where I am worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet, and then when it happens, I will then worry about it again. But I still have concerns about that, so I'm hoping that's not the direction it goes. But I think it's an interesting build to, like, basically, I wanted MJF in a one-on-one match. This is not that, obviously. It is a gauntlet battle royal. So, by definition, not a singles match. But with having MJF and Mark Briscoe as the 1 and 2, you basically are able to build up to it as a singles match, and then Mystico is going to come in and more people are going to come in, and you can kind of build off of it that way. So I think it's been a really, really smart build for this. Overall, I have loved the progression from AEW to go from Double or Nothing to this one, and they have really, really hit their stride, and this is a chance to make a good exclamation mark on it. Conrad in the chat, new era for the women too will be nice. Yes, we're going to talk about the overall health of AEW here in a second, but yeah, like this is... we get the Casino Gauntlet for the women as well, but the fact that I'm fairly certain the Toni Storm Mercedes match is the only women's singles match on your biggest show of the year, that is not good enough. There are a lot of talented performers on the women's side of the roster on this show, and so that is the one thing I think WWE could kind of do a on. It's like, okay, like, yeah, biggest show of the year, whatever. We just did an all-women's event. What do you guys do? You had one match and then a battle royal. Cool, man. Places in the 1980s did the same thing. So that's what the WWE maybe could hang their hat on for this weekend. But I agree. I hope a new era is coming, because I think there's a lot of very talented performers that just aren't getting enough shine with AEW. There has been a lot of talk about the health of AEW and where its standing is in professional wrestling right now. So going into their biggest show of the year, I thought pretty good time to take a look at where All Elite Wrestling is in the entire wrestling landscape and just in their lifetime as we look at AEW's overall health going into All In. So, AEW has their biggest show of the year, All In. There's been a lot of talk about where AEW is at right now, so I thought, you know what, this is a pretty good time to look at the overall health of this company. And right now, it is moving in the right direction. This company is now and forever will be the work rate company, right? Like, there is no denying that. This is a company where, like, the best wrestle, I don't know if they have exclusivity to the best wrestlers in the world, but they certainly feel like they have it to the best matches in the world. And that has always, always, always been the case. But we have gone through a bit of a stretch with this company where it has kind of felt that there have been a few comparisons along the way, but the one that I think really strikes me, it is either mid-2010s WWE or late 2000s TNA, where none of the stories made sense, but you would tune in to watch the matches and it would be fine, because you would get the 1 minute kind of video presentation of what they were going for, storytelling wise, even though, like, they have to edit out a lot of things and change a whole lot of different things. You would at least get the snapshot of, like, oh, that's what they were trying to do. And then you'd get an awesome match out of it. That is kind of what AEW turned into for about, like, 18 months there. I don't know what flipped. I don't know if there has been a change in who is doing the creative, if Tony Khan read a book, or if he just ran the whole roster through ChatGPT and was like, hey, can we build a actual wrestling show off of these guys? And it was like, yeah, bet, let's go, boom, and threw it all out there. But something has changed, and the creative feels very, very dialed in right now. There was a lot of time where AEW kind of got caught up in the wrong thing. It is something, just to bring it back to me, follow me on this journey. I promise it goes somewhere. I hope it does. That part of the joke will make sense in 1 second. I have ADD, diagnosed and now medicated for it. And so one of the things that is a symptom of that sometimes is that you can focus on the tiniest little detail and just like, okay, I need to have such attention to detail on this thing and then miss 5 other ones. The best example of it for me is, weird one, clean in the bathroom. The mirror will be absolutely filthy and disgusting, but I'll be goddamned if I didn't clean the fuck out of the light switch, okay? Like that is is where I was at. And AEW, they had a clean light switch for a while, where it was, oh, we're not just going to have random camera guy in the back. We're going to explain who the camera person is and why there's a camera person here. And we're going to explain different things that tie us all together here for all these different reasons, and forget actual like character progression and stories and stuff like that. But the attention has switched, and the focus is now back on where it needs to. I don't know where that switched, but I do know where the first switch came. And it does really feel like it was the Adam Cole MJF build, right? The whole, these guys hate each other. Well, now they're teammates, and now we're doing all these vignettes. There were some people who were turned off by the vignettes. But then the whole turn of Adam Cole turning on MJF, and Adam Cole is the devil, and he has these guys who are attached to either Adam Cole or MJF. And you have this thing, and it was just at that point, everyone almost collectively, you could hear the whole wrestling world roll their eyes at the same time. And the build went nowhere. And then MJF comes back and kind of feels like a babyface, but then quickly turns into a heel again. And we just flipped the whole dynamic. And they tried to explain it like 4 times to make it make sense, and it didn't. And it just felt like at that point, it was one of those things where, like, you hear on the Monday Night War thing and all those things, Hulk Hogan talking about how, like, you can make a lot of little mistakes, but there's one big mistake, and then all of a sudden everyone's kind of taking a look at you. And again, we're not talking about the scale of what WCW was, but that felt like their Halloween Havoc, where the matches were fine, but like for Halloween Havoc 98, where it was Hogan Warrior and the match sucked, and then it went too long while being bad, and they couldn't get the finish of the pay-per-view on. And so it was at that point in WCW where everyone was like, well, that was dumb. And you start to get that, wait, are they dumb in the back of your head? And now everything goes through that filter. And it was kind of the same in AEW, where you could overlook a lot of like, well, that's silly. But then once the big silly thing happens, then it's like, well, wait a minute. All of this is kind of silly. And they could not just get the nose turned up on this thing at any point. Like I said, it has switched now, but it has been a bit with them trying to get out from that creative direction there. So things are going in the right direction, but now they do need the measurables to catch up, right? Attendance is up slightly, but it is still well away from what they were. A lot of the attendance figures feel small company-ish. And I remember, like, when AEW started, and you're going to these big arenas, and it is national television, it's like, oh my God, I am watching Bryan Danielson against Kenny Omega for 60 minutes at where the U.S. Open is, at Arthur Ashe Stadium, on national television. There's 20,000 people in there watching. Like, it is crazy that these amazing wrestlers get this big type of a thing. And so that was one of the draws of AEW, is that all these guys who I've watched in video clips from Reseda, California, in a room that is about the size of this office, spare bed, now I'm seeing them on national TV in these big arenas. And now I'm watching them on national TV in similarly sized arenas where they were wrestling on indies, you know? Like, it had a small-time feel to it. And now they did a pretty good job in some instances of making those small arenas feel different, feel unique. They go to theater houses and esports stadiums and stuff like that. Like, they did a good job of kind of making the best out of a bad situation, but there was nowhere to hide that there was a bad situation. And still, when you look at ticket sales, it's not great right now. They still have the ticket sales of a small company. And I do think that will turn. As the creative turns, as the momentum turns, that will kind of be the last thing that catches up. Is that and TV ratings. Again, the TV ratings are going in the right direction, but they're not where they were even a year ago. So it is something that you need to really, I think, stick with this course. Because we have heard before how, like, bad creative, it takes a while for it to really set in the measurables, right? In the dollars and cents, at the ticket gate, merchandise sales, all of that. I think it's the same for building that momentum back up. You know, again, a lot of Attitude Era references on the show today, but like WWF, their 1997 was spectacular. And in like late 96 into 97. A lot of that stuff was really, really good, but they're getting bludgeoned by WCW, whose show isn't even as good, but it was the cool thing that we all latched onto, and so we were there. And so it took a while for WWF to really hit that stride and have kind of the measurables catch up to what we were all seeing with the creative direction and everything. I think that's the same here, where it would be a mistake to panic to see some of the things maybe not growing the way you would want it to with a refined approach, because it is going to change. This is an approach you need to stay patient with and need to grow with. But like Conrad said in the chat, there are still improvements that need to be made. The women's division is entirely underutilized. Again, there's one singles match on All In as of the time of this recording anyway, and then a gauntlet match. That's it. It's not close to what the messaging was at the time, where we were getting Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa in those deathmatch style things and everything like that. Like, they need more of that now on their main programming. And just in general, there's a lot of talent that is underutilized. And I've said before, I think that's where a partnership with New Japan can come in. I think that's where a partnership with CMLL can come in and really start to get this talent into a lot of different spaces. So AEW was in a bad spot. When you think about Brawl In, Brawl Out with CM Punk, and then kind of screwing up the Adam Cole MJF storyline and making two of your most dynamic performers who you focus basically a year on, making them both feel insignificant in a matter of moments. It was a lot, self-inflicted wounds, a lot of them, but it was a lot for them to come back from. And it does feel like they are righting the ship. And I just have this feeling that by this time next year, when we're talking about All In 2027, or All In 2026, sorry, certainly probably McMahon Stadium in Calgary. When we are talking about this big show, I think we are talking about a happy, healthy AEW that, again, is in actual hockey and basketball arenas instead of esports stadiums. And to close it out, like Conrad saying, I don't think they won't be. I don't think they will be making chicken salad from chicken shit at this time next year. But they need to stay patient and need to keep going on the road that they are going on. That is going to do it for Couch Potato Diary today. A bit of a longer one, but thank you guys so much for hanging out. Once again, we are presented by Sea of Dead. Check out seaofdead403.ca and rep this city. I've said it before, like this Calgary Cannons hat. If you're not a Calgarian or anything at all associated with Calgary, or Cannons, I suppose, it's just objectively a cool looking hat. So head over to seaofdead403.ca for that. If you need energy to get through the next time I start talking for an hour and a half about football, baseball, and professional wrestling, head over to swiftenergy.gg. Use the code PK Primetime. Gets 25% off. They got some... Look, the drinks will help you with the fuel. It also tastes really good, too. So head over to swiftenergy.gg and use that code PK Primetime. If you are watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and share the video as well with all of your friends and 3 people you don't like, just to throw them off. My dog thinks so as well. If you're watching on Twitch, thank you so much. Hit that follow button. If you have the means, hit subscribe. But just following and watching means the world to me. Thank you so much. And for podcast listeners, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe wherever you are tuning in. Our next live stream is going to be Thursday. That is the next one, I can promise you. We'll see how you boys feeling after Subtronics. If I have eardrums or a voice or eyes after what is generally a pretty intense laser show, I will try to make it onto a video game stream, but I can't promise anything. I can promise Thursday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. So, thank you to Conrad and Big John. Awesome in the chat. Great chatting with you guys here today. Thank you to everyone else who tuned in, and I will talk to all of you later. And like Conrad said, tune into Flow College tonight.